Hello everyone, and welcome to Lesson 6 of the Green Entrepreneurship Program. Today we will talk about the topic of communicating your green business idea through an elevator pitch. Elevator pitches are of course used for any business presentation, not just green business ideas. And what I tell you is applicable to any pitch that you may do. I would even say that pitching a green business idea can be more challenging than just a traditional business, in the sense that you not only have to pitch a for-profit scenario, but also have to pitch the potential social and environmental impact and benefits, all in a short time frame, which of course makes it more complex. So I will begin with the definition of elevator pitch, and then I will discuss key characteristics of a good elevator pitch, then make some recommendations on how to structure a good elevator pitch. And then after that, you will be given examples of the do's and the don'ts of elevator pitches. So let's start with a quick definition of what is an elevator pitch. And an elevator pitch is, it's a communication tool used to articulate a message, effectively a short summary of a business, what problem it solves, and why it is special. And it is basically based on the idea of walking onto an elevator and finding a potential investor there and realizing that you only have a few floors to make an impression. And so you can imagine walking on to the elevator and you see Warren Buffett standing there by himself. And so you can really think of this as a 30-second commercial whose objective is really just to secure another meeting. It's not to sell a product. It's more akin to speed dating, where you really want to leave a special, memorable impression on someone you like, but you don't necessarily want to tell them your entire life story right away either. So it's all about capturing interest and hopefully getting a phone number or a business card once done. So why is an elevator pitch necessary? Well, after working in investing for over 20 years, I have learned the incredible importance of effective and concise presentations. Too many times I have witnessed very good business ideas that simply get overlooked due to a poorly structured presentation, or perhaps the speaker is too nervous or too technical. And I've also observed many not so good businesses get funding due to having an exceptional presentation. So a good elevator pitch can really make the difference of securing needed funding for your business idea, either launching or surviving or not. So good pitching is really an art that needs to be developed. And I would say that the large majority of entrepreneurs vastly underestimate its importance. Most, or certainly a lot, tend to wing it and tend to think that everyone will be as enamored of their business idea as they are. And unfortunately, it just oftentimes doesn't come across that strongly, and the lack of preparation can show. It's very important that you prepare for it. Again, as you see, entrepreneurs are almost always enamored with the idea, which is great. Unfortunately, they don't structure their pitch that well, and the message is lost. Many times, too much time is spent on minutia or irrelevant items. The truth is that most investors hear pitches continually, and oftentimes know in a very short time frame whether the opportunity has any promise. So as a result, it is imperative that the entrepreneur explain their business in a way that captures the attention of the listener immediately. This is especially true as, from my experience, investors have a very short attention span. So getting to the point is key, and the message should be simple, especially if the business model is complex. So with that said, I'm going to discuss 10 characteristics I would consider of a good elevator pitch. And they're pretty straightforward, but nonetheless important to keep in mind. So first and foremost, it is very important to be concise. Some people say you have 3 to 5 minutes for an elevator pitch. That tends to be an investment pitch in front of investors. But an elevator pitch really is more along the lines of 30 seconds, which obviously is much harder. You need to be prepared to give a 30-second pitch as well as a 3-minute pitch, as well as a 5-minute pitch, because it really just depends on circumstances. But you must be concise. So the first one is you need to be concise. Get to the point. If you are presenting, i.e. with a presentation, the less text the better. No one likes seeing a presenter read from a text. And again, just remember, most investors decide probably within the first 15 to 30 seconds whether they even want to pay attention, and so get to the point. The second is to be clear. It doesn't really matter if the business model is complex or not. It needs to be simple to understand. And I recommend, especially if you have a relatively complex business or solution, that you practice it with family members, parents, even grandparents. And if they don't understand it, then you need to start all over, and you need to keep on doing it until anyone can understand it. Again, I've seen many complex businesses that they just can't effectively pitch the idea. But I do believe that all problems should be easily communicated, and that's really what you're trying to solve here. You don't need to get into the details. That could be really for a second meeting. So remember, be clear. Next is the importance of being convincing. The problem your business is solving needs to be clear, but your solution must convince the listener. And most audience, for example, most audience will understand key social environmental problems that we face. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of pitchers really focus on just laying out the problems. Most investors either know of the problem or they can conceptualize it extremely quickly. So do not spend a lot of time talking about the problem. Summarize it very quickly and then get right to the solution. Because you need to convince your audience that your solution is the answer. Next is being credible. Good ideas are everywhere, but implementing them is often very challenging, and most businesses fail due to poor execution or poor management of cash. So you need to have credibility on your solution. So if you're going to tell me that your business will solve world hunger or climate change, well, you and your team better have the credibility to back it up. Otherwise, I will stop listening almost immediately. Next is being conceptual. Similar to being concise, you just need to sell the concept and avoid all the detail and minutia, which can be saved for a second meeting. And unfortunately, it seems like I'm stating the obvious, but most entrepreneurs tend to jump into all the details, and that's really not the point of this meeting. So it's really to keep the high-level concept. Next is being concrete. You need to be very specific and tangible. Do not talk in general terms because your solution doesn't sound so credible. So you need to be very concrete about the opportunity, the problem, and what your opportunity is here, and how your business solves it. Next is to be very personalized. As hard as it may be, especially after giving hundreds and hundreds of pitches, is that you really need to personalize your pitch to every audience. And I know that can be challenging, but the reality is you tend to come across very different audiences. And so if you're dealing with pure investors, they may focus in on the financial aspects of your business, whereas you're dealing with maybe a development organization that wants to get a grant, but they're probably going to be more interested on the social environmental impact. And so you really need to tailor your pitches based on your audience. And you probably should have 2 to 3 different pitches prepared for those different types of audiences, because it's almost inevitably you'll have different types of audiences. The next point is being consistent. As much as you may personalize it, the message needs to be consistent. And I have heard companies pitch entirely different solutions, and the truth is that you lose credibility. So you need to be consistent, but just personalize it to the audiences around that consistent message of what the value add is of your business. Next is being conversational. Again, going back to the speed dating example, you're trying to make this interesting. You're trying to make this memorable. You're talking to people of all different backgrounds. Some may not understand exactly what you do. Others may be very sophisticated. You're trying to keep it light. Try to make it interesting. Avoid technical details, making it memorable. I've seen some very effective pitches that are humorous, but also very to the point. And so make it a conversation. Make it fun, interesting, but also impactful. And the last point really is be passionate about it. No matter what you do, you should be passionate about what you're doing. Because if you're not, how could you expect the audience to be passionate about what you're doing? And that's really what you really want to get. And in this space, most entrepreneurs tend to be passionate because we all want to find solutions to the key social environmental problems that we're facing. And so you normally don't lack passion, although sometimes you do see those who are very passionate about solving those problems, but maybe less on the business side, or vice versa. And so, if you want to be a CEO of a green entity, you really need to be passionate about all aspects of the business, and that needs to show. And from an investor's perspective, this is very important because we have found that those who are most passionate about a business are the ones who stick it out during tough times, to weather the storm. And obviously for an investor, that's very important. Whereas those who don't seem as passionate, they tend to be the ones who may walk when things get tough. And so passion is extremely important. Make the pitches exciting. Show how your business will have meaningful impact. And so anyway, that's the 10 characteristics of what I think are very important in an elevator pitch. Now I'll talk to a few steps on how to structure an elevator pitch. Repeating some of the prior messages, but it's just very important to keep it simple. So first, when you're starting out, people tend to focus too much on their name, their experience, the founders, where they're studied, things like that. All of that is not necessary. That's really for a second meeting. You could state your name, say your company's name, and describe your business very quickly. That should be really 10-15 seconds at most of it. The next part is really about explaining the problem that you're solving and why what you do is different. And again, remember, the point of this is to hook interest here, to get someone requesting a follow-up meeting. You're not trying to sell them a product. You're trying to pique their interest, plain and simple. So don't waste a lot of time talking about the problem and talking about climate change. We know the problems. Most investors know what the problems are. So unless it's very particular to your case and maybe it's very obscure, focus less on the problem and more on the solution. What are you doing exactly to generate this impact? And that's what people really want to hear. That's really the meat of the pitch. Next is you really want to, depending on who you're pitching to, if it's an investor, it's one thing. If it's a business, they want to hear how your solution is going to help their clients or help them get new clients. And so focus on that. That's very important. Even for investors, we want to know how what you're offering to companies is going to help them grow and therefore be of interest. So these are exactly the kind of things that you should be presenting. And then I would end it with a real life example. It's one thing to conceptualize a solution, but the most powerful pitches are those who have done it. And even if they have one example, and how they could either generate income for a business or savings, or in this case, generate meaningful social environmental impact. The more you can tailor or tie your business to that example, the more credible it is, and people are going to be more impressed if you could give examples. And so the last step really is practice. I know that sounds obvious, but unfortunately most elevator pitches fail. And keep in mind, in most scenarios where you hear an elevator pitch, it's one of tens or 20 different pitches, and after a while they start sounding the same. So you really need to get this right. This could be the difference of your business surviving or not. And so you need to practice with as many people as possible, family, friends, other entrepreneurs. Every opportunity you get, you should be out there practicing. because it really could make the difference of whether your business will survive or not. So in sum, do not underestimate the importance of a good pitch. Again, practice with anyone that will listen to you, because I believe, and I've seen it firsthand, that those who excel at pitching really tend to do well, and those who don't, despite how good their idea is, tend not to. And so after all the effort put into your business, don't lose out because you didn't practice an elevator pitch. And so I think if you keep to these rules and really keep it simple, memorable, impactful, you should be able to create a very memorable pitch. So thank you very much for your time, and good luck.